Humans train on worlds that instantly kill aliens. Part 1. The massive viewing screen flickered to life in the grand chamber of the Galactic Council. Ambassador Kelrick stood before 200 alien representatives, his three-fingered hand trembling as he activated the display. What appeared on the screen made several council members gasp in horror. The footage showed creatures moving across a frozen landscape, their bodies exposed to temperatures that would freeze Xanthari blood in seconds. These creatures were humans, and they were training. Kelrix had spent 3 weeks analyzing the intercepted transmissions from the human military. Every piece of data he examined made his concerns grow deeper. The planet the humans called Titan 7 registered as a Death World Class 9 on the Galactic Danger Scale. The gravity alone measured 1.4 times the standard baseline. The atmospheric composition would burn the lungs of most species. The temperature dropped low enough to turn carbon dioxide into solid ice. Yet the humans ran across this nightmare world as if it were a pleasant garden. Council members, please observe carefully, Kelrick said, his voice translator carrying his words to every species present. What you are witnessing is not a survival scenario or an emergency evacuation. According to our intelligence, this is what humans call basic training. On the screen, a group of human soldiers jogged in formation across an ice field. They wore only thin layers of fabric that would provide zero protection to most galactic species. One human broke from the formation and dropped to the ground, performing rapid push-ups in the frozen dirt. Others followed, their breath creating clouds of vapor in the toxic air. A Valorian diplomat stood up, her gentle features twisted in confusion. Ambassador Kelrick, surely there must be an error in your data. No species could survive such conditions without advanced environmental suits. We use Class 9 worlds as dumping grounds for hazardous waste because nothing can live there. Kelrick touched another control, and the view changed. Now the screen showed the interior of a human training facility. An instructor stood before a group of young recruits, pointing to a map of their solar system. The instructor's words had been translated by Xanthari computers. Welcome to Titan 7 recruits. For the next 12 weeks, this moon will be your home. Some of you come from easy places like California or Florida. You think you know what cold means. You think you know what hard means. I promise you, by the time we're done, you will understand what your body can really do. The recruits looked nervous but not terrified. Not one of them wore the expression of someone facing certain death. They looked like students on the first day of school, uncomfortable but ready to learn. On Titan 7, Captain Derek Hayes walked through the training compound with his second-in-command, Lieutenant Karen Wright. They reviewed the day's schedule on a handheld device, discussing which exercises to run first. Above them, the weak sun barely provided light through the methane haze. The ground crunched beneath their boots with each step. The new batch looks promising, Karen said, pulling her jacket tighter against the wind. Though half of them have never been off-world before, they're going to struggle with the gravity. Derek nodded. They always do at first. Give them 2 weeks and their bodies will adjust. That's what humans do best. We adapt. Neither of them knew that hidden among the rocks surrounding their base, a Xanthari probe no larger than a human fist recorded their every word and movement. The probe had been watching for 17 days, gathering data that was being transmitted across space to distant alien worlds, where military leaders studied humans with growing fear. Back in the council chamber, Kelrick displayed more footage. This time it showed human soldiers swimming through a lake of liquid methane, racing each other to the opposite shore. Their skin turned red from the cold, but they laughed and shouted encouragement to their teammates. One soldier fell behind, struggling against the current. 2 others immediately swam back to help, pulling their companion to safety before continuing the exercise. Note their social behavior, Kelrick said. They risk their own survival to help group members. This suggests strong pack bonding and loyalty. Combined with their physical capabilities, it makes them extremely dangerous as a coordinated fighting force. A Krathax commander stood up, his armored body gleaming under the chamber lights. How many of these training worlds do the humans operate? Kelrick consulted his datapad. We have confirmed 17 separate facilities across their solar system and nearby systems. Each one operates in conditions we would classify as unsurvivable. But the most disturbing fact is still to come. He changed the image once more. This time the screen showed a blue and green planet, beautiful and vibrant with life. Oceans covered most of its surface. White clouds swirled in atmospheric patterns. It looked peaceful and inviting. "This is Earth, the human homeworld," Kelrick said softly. "According to our classification system, it registers as a Class 7 death world." Silence filled the chamber. Several species had never encountered a Class 7 world. Most civilizations evolved on Class 1 or Class 2 worlds, places with stable climates, low gravity, and gentle weather patterns. A Class 7 meant extreme gravity, violent weather, dangerous native life, and atmospheric conditions that required extensive protection. Humans called it home. "They evolved there," a Valorian scientist whispered. "They grew up in hell and learned to love it." Kelrix nodded. "Exactly. What we consider training on a death world, they consider a minor challenge. What they consider normal, we consider a nightmare. I have analyzed their biological data. Human bones are 4 times denser than Xanthari bones. Their muscles operate at efficiency levels we achieve only with mechanical enhancement. Their immune systems fight thousands of pathogens simultaneously, something our best medical technology cannot replicate." He paused, letting the information sink in before delivering his final point. "Council members, we are not looking at a normal spacefaring species. We are looking at a race of natural warriors who grew up on a world that tried to kill them every single day. They are not training to become dangerous. They are dangerous, and they are training to become even more so." On Titan 7, Derek stood on a hill overlooking the training grounds. Below him, 200 human soldiers ran through obstacle courses, climbed walls of ice, and practiced combat techniques in the thin atmosphere. They struggled and sweated and pushed their bodies to the limit. Some would fail and be sent home. Others would succeed and move on to even harder challenges. Derek thought about his career, about all the worlds he had served on and all the soldiers he had trained. He thought about Earth and how much he missed the simple pleasure of rain on his face. He never once thought about how terrifying his normal day would appear to most of the galaxy. He never considered that at this very moment. Alien civilizations were watching his routine training exercises and preparing for what they feared was the rise of an unstoppable military force. He just knew he had a job to do and soldiers to train. The rest of the galaxy would have to figure out what to do about humanity on their own. Derek had obstacle courses to run and recruits to push to their limits. That was what humans did after all. They pushed limits until the limits broke. The Valorian diplomatic ship emerged from faster-than-light travel just outside Earth's orbit. Ambassador Threen stood on the bridge looking at the blue planet through the viewport. She had traveled across the galaxy many times in her long career, but never had she felt such nervousness about a diplomatic mission. Behind her, 6 honor guards stood in ceremonial armor, each one carrying weapons they hoped they would never need to use. "Ambassador, the humans are hailing us," the communications officer said. "They are offering an escort to their capital city." Threen nodded. "Accept their offer, and remind our crew that we are here as friends, not as threats. Whatever happens today will shape the future of human and alien relations for generations." 3 hours later, Threen sat in a conference room deep within the Human Defense Headquarters. Across the table sat General Paul Bennett and Secretary of Defense Lisa Crawford. Both humans looked professional and calm, but Threen could see the curiosity in their eyes. They clearly wondered why the Galactic Council had sent an ambassador without any advance warning. "Thank you for seeing me on such short notice," Threen began. "I bring urgent concerns from the Galactic Council regarding your military training programs." Paul and Lisa exchanged confused glances. "Our training programs?" Paul asked. "I'm not sure I understand. We haven't shared any military information with the Council. Our training operations are entirely within our own territory." Threen activated a holographic projector in the center of the table. The image of Titan 7 appeared, showing human soldiers running through the ice fields. "We have been monitoring your activities. What you call routine training takes place on worlds that would kill most galactic species in minutes. The Council is deeply concerned about what this means for galactic security." Lisa leaned forward, studying the footage. "Ambassador, I think there might be a misunderstanding. This is just basic physical training. We've been doing this for centuries, long before we met any alien species." "That is precisely what concerns us," Threen said quietly. She changed the hologram to show a Xanthari soldier in a full environmental suit. "Please watch this footage. It was taken on a Class 3 death world, a planet far less dangerous than the one your soldiers train on without any protection." The humans watched as the Xanthari soldier attempted to walk across rocky terrain. Even in his advanced suit, every step looked painful and difficult. The soldier's breathing came in gasps through his helmet speaker. Warning lights flashed on his suit display. After 8 minutes, the soldier collapsed. Medical drones rushed in to evacuate him before the environment could kill him. The soldier survived barely, Threen said. Now let me show you comparable human footage. The hologram changed to show a beach on Earth. Human children ran across the sand, laughing and playing. They jumped into the ocean, swimming in waters that Threen knew contained enough dissolved salt to poison a Valorian. The waves crashed over them with force that would break her own bones. They climbed onto rocks and dove back into the water, completely unprotected and completely unafraid. Paul sat back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. You're saying that what humans consider play, other species consider lethal danger? Exactly, Threen said. General Bennett, your species evolved on a world that our scientists classify as a Class 7 death world. Most civilizations never even explore such planets because the risk is too extreme. Yet you grew up there. You thrived there. Your children play in conditions that would require our best soldiers to wear protective equipment. Lisa called up data on her own tablet, reading quickly. Our bone density, muscle structure, cardiovascular system, they're all adapted to Earth's conditions. She looked up at Threen. We never realized how different we were because we had no comparison. We thought everyone was basically similar, just different shapes and sizes. I wish that were true, Threen said, but the differences are fundamental. I requested that one of your scientists join us to explain in more detail. Dr. Helen Burke is waiting. Outside. Helen entered the room carrying several data pads and looking excited despite the serious nature of the meeting. She was a xenobiologist who had spent the past 2 years studying every piece of information about alien species that Earth had collected. This was her chance to present her findings to people who could actually use the knowledge. Thank you for inviting me, Helen said, setting up her materials. I've been researching the biological differences between humans and other galactic species. The short version is this. Humans are terrifyingly durable compared to almost everyone else in the galaxy. She displayed a chart comparing human biology to 5 other species. Human bones can withstand forces up to 3 times what Xanthari bones can handle before breaking. Our muscles operate at efficiency levels that most species only achieve with mechanical enhancement. Our cardiovascular system pumps blood at pressures that would rupture Valorian blood vessels. And our immune system, she paused for emphasis. Our immune system fights off thousands of different pathogens every single day. Most alien species would die from a common human cold. Paul rubbed his temples. So when we shake hands with an alien, we could literally be exposing them to deadly diseases. Potentially, yes, Helen confirmed. Though we've been careful about that during first contact situations. But the physical differences are just as important. Earth's gravity is 1.0 on the standard scale. The Valorian homeworld is 0.6. The Xanthari homeworld is 0.7. Most galactic species evolved on worlds with gravity between 0.5 and 0.8. Earth is on the extreme, high end of habitable worlds. She showed footage of human athletes performing various sports. What we consider normal athletic ability would make a human the strongest being on most alien worlds. Our Olympic athletes would be viewed as superhuman by galactic standards. And our soldiers, trained specifically for combat, would be nearly unstoppable. Threen spoke up again, her voice heavy with concern. Which brings me to the real reason for my visit. General Bennett, Secretary Crawford, there are factions within the Galactic Council calling for preemptive military action against humanity. They see you as a threat that must be contained before you become too powerful. The room went silent. Paul and Lisa looked at each other, then back at Threen. We have no intention of threatening anyone, Lisa said carefully. We're still learning about the galaxy. We want to establish trade relationships, share knowledge, and explore peacefully. I believe you, Threen said. But fear is not rational. Some species see your military training programs and imagine armies of super soldiers preparing to conquer the galaxy. They see your expansion onto Class 5 and Class 6 worlds that no one else can colonize. And they worry about what happens when you run out of death worlds and start looking at their territories. Paul stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city below. What do you suggest we do? Show them who you really are, Threen said. The Council knows you can fight. Show them you can also cooperate. Demonstrate your abilities in a controlled way that doesn't seem threatening. Help us understand you better so that fear can be replaced with knowledge. Helen looked thoughtful. We could organize a demonstration. Show alien observers our training methods and explain the science behind them. Make it educational rather than intimidating. That could work, Lisa agreed. If we're transparent about our capabilities and our intentions, it might ease their concerns. Threen nodded slowly. It is worth attempting, but I must warn you, there will be those who cannot be convinced. The Krathax Empire, in particular, sees military strength as the only thing that matters. They may view any demonstration as a challenge rather than an olive branch. Then we'll deal with that if it happens, Paul said firmly. But we have to try the peaceful approach first. Humanity didn't survive Earth by giving up when things got difficult. We adapted, we learned, and we moved forward. We'll do the same thing now. As Threen prepared to leave, she looked back at the three humans. I hope you understand the magnitude of what you face. The galaxy has never encountered a species like yours. You are unique, and that makes you frightening to many. But it could also make you invaluable. The choice of which path to follow is yours. After she left, Paul, Lisa, and Helen sat in silence for a moment. We need to start planning this demonstration immediately, Lisa finally said, and we need to be very careful about how we present ourselves. One wrong move and we could start a war we never wanted. Helen gathered her materials. I'll start preparing educational briefings about human biology. The more they understand about how we evolved, the less threatening we might seem. Paul looked out the window again at Earth, the deadly beautiful world that had shaped humanity into what they were. We've spent millions of years adapting to the hardest world in the galaxy. Now we need to adapt to something even harder, convincing the galaxy that we're friends, not monsters. The transport ships began arriving at Nova 15 3 days before the scheduled demonstration. Each vessel carried observers from different alien species, diplomats and military officers who came to see what humans were really capable of. Commander Ryan Foster watched the ships land from the control tower of the human training facility, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. Everything had to be perfect. One mistake could turn the galaxy against humanity forever. Captain Amy Richardson stood beside him, reviewing the demonstration schedule for the 100th time. She commanded the unit that would perform the actual demonstrations, and she had spent weeks preparing her soldiers for this moment. The Krathax ship just landed, she said. That makes 47 species represented. More than we expected, Ryan nodded. Word spread fast. Everyone wants to see if the rumors are true, if humans really are as dangerous as the reports claim. He turned to face her. Are your people ready? As ready as they'll ever be, Amy replied. I've explained to them that we need to be impressive but not threatening. Show capability without showing aggression. It's a fine line to walk. Down on the landing field, Commander Xylith of the Krathax Empire stepped off his ship. He was larger than most of his species, with armor that displayed his military achievements. Unlike many of the observers who looked nervous about being on a human training world, Xylith looked excited. He had studied humans carefully since the first reports reached Krathax space. While others saw a threat, he saw opportunity. The alien observers were escorted to climate-controlled viewing platforms that overlooked the training grounds. The platforms had been specially built for this event, with environmental controls that could be adjusted for each species' needs. Valorian observers sat in low-gravity chambers with carefully filtered air. Xanthari sat in heated pods that protected them from the planet's natural temperature. Even with all these protections, several species found even being on Nova 15 uncomfortable. Amy walked to the center of the training ground, her voice amplified so all the observers could hear. Welcome to Nova 15. This planet has conditions very similar to Earth with 1.0 standard gravity and an oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere. For humans, this is a comfortable environment. We understand that for many of you, even observing from your protected platforms may be challenging. We appreciate your courage in coming here. She gestured to her left, where 200 human soldiers stood in formation. These soldiers represent average human military personnel. They have completed basic training but are not elite special forces. They are what we consider standard troops. Today they will demonstrate routine training exercises that human soldiers perform regularly. A Valorian diplomat activated his translator. Captain Richardson, before you begin, can you explain what basic training involves for humans? Amy nodded. Basic training for human soldiers lasts 12 weeks. During that time, recruits learn physical fitness, combat skills, survival techniques, and teamwork. They run long distances, climb obstacles, swim in various conditions, and learn to operate in different environments. By the end of basic training, they can march 20 miles carrying 50 pounds of equipment, perform hundreds of push-ups and sit-ups, and function effectively with minimal sleep. She could see the shock on many alien faces. What she described as basic would be considered superhuman by most galactic species. "Let's begin with a simple demonstration," Amy said. "Physical fitness assessment." Lieutenant Chris Morgan called his squad to attention. On his command, the soldiers began running laps around the training field. The pace looked casual to human observers, but several aliens gasped. The humans were moving at speeds that most species could not maintain even in short sprints. They ran for 30 minutes without stopping, their breathing steady and controlled. After running, the soldiers moved to pull up bars. One by one, they gripped the bars and pulled themselves up, their body weight seeming like nothing. The average human soldier completed 20 pull-ups. Some did 30 or more. A Xanthari military observer did a quick calculation and realized that the force required to lift a human body in Earth gravity was more than twice what his strongest soldiers could generate. Dr. Alan Price, a human physician, provided commentary as the demonstrations continued. Human muscles are composed of fibers that can contract with remarkable force. Our bone structure provides leverage that maximizes this strength. Additionally, human endurance is exceptional because of our cardiovascular efficiency and our ability to regulate body temperature through sweating. The next demonstration involved an obstacle course. Soldiers climbed walls 3 times their height, crawled under barriers through mud, swung across gaps using ropes, and navigated through water obstacles. They moved with speed and confidence, treating the challenging course as routine. One Valorian observer spoke up. "Dr. Price, the mud they are crawling through, is it safe for humans?" Alan smiled. "The mud contains thousands of bacteria, small particles of rock, and various organic materials. For most species, exposure would require immediate medical treatment. For humans, it will wash off with water and soap. Our skin is a highly effective barrier, and our immune system will handle any microorganisms that get through." He paused to let that information sink in before continuing. "Human immune systems are constantly fighting off potential infections. Right now, each of those soldiers has antibodies circulating in their blood that could fight off dozens of different diseases. They don't even think about it because it happens automatically." Several alien medical officers looked ill at this information. The thought of being constantly exposed to pathogens was nightmare fuel for species that evolved in more protected environments. The demonstration continued with combat training. Soldiers practiced hand-to-hand fighting techniques, showing how humans could use their strength and leverage to overcome opponents. They practiced with weapons, demonstrating accuracy and control. Every movement was precise and controlled, but the observers could see the potential for violence in every technique. Amy then announced the most controversial part of the demonstration. "We will now conduct a jungle survival exercise. Our soldiers will enter the environment you see behind me." She pointed to a fenced area that contained Earth-normal jungle, complete with high humidity, dense vegetation, and native Earth insects. They will spend 4 hours in this environment with minimal equipment. The alien observers watched in horror as human soldiers entered the jungle wearing nothing but light clothing. The temperature inside was over 90 degrees Fahrenheit with 90% humidity. Insects swarmed everywhere. Plants with thorns and irritating sap grew throughout the area. Any of these factors alone would make the environment dangerous for most species. Combined, they created what most observers considered a death trap. But the humans moved through the jungle calmly. They identified edible plants. They found and purified water. They built shelters using branches and leaves. They started fires using friction. They treated minor cuts and insect bites as insignificant annoyances. To them, this was not survival horror. This was camping. Commander Xylith watched everything with intense focus. Unlike the others who looked frightened, he looked fascinated. When the jungle exercise ended and the soldiers emerged tired but healthy, he requested permission to speak with the human commanders. Ryan and Amy met with Xylith in a private conference room. The Krathax commander got straight to the point. "You are showing us your capabilities to ease our fears, but you are achieving the opposite effect. Every demonstration proves that humans are more dangerous than we imagined." "That's not our intention," Ryan said carefully. "We want to show that we're capable but not aggressive." Xylith made a gesture that his translator interpreted as amusement. Captain Foster, I'm not afraid of you. I am impressed by you. While others in the Council worry about human expansion, I see a different possibility. I see partnership. Amy leaned forward. What kind of partnership? Humans can survive where others cannot, Xylith explained. You can train in environments that kill other species. You have physical capabilities that others lack. But you are still one species among hundreds. You need allies, resources, and knowledge that the galactic community can provide. I propose that humanity becomes the galaxy's training force. You teach others to be stronger, tougher, and more capable. In return, you gain political influence and access to galactic technology. Ryan and Amy exchanged glances. This was not what they had expected. You want us to train alien soldiers? Not just soldiers, Xylith said. Anyone who wants to push their limits and become more than they are. Humans evolved by overcoming challenges. You can teach others to do the same. Not everyone will reach human levels, but they can become better than they are now, and in the process humanity becomes invaluable to the galaxy, rather than threatening to it. After Xylith left, Amy sat down heavily. Did that just happen? Did a Krathax commander just offer us a way to become the galaxy's personal trainers? Ryan laughed despite the seriousness of the situation. I think he did. And honestly, it's not a terrible idea. We need a role in the galactic community that doesn't involve being seen as a military threat. If we can help other species improve themselves, maybe we can build real alliances. We need to report this to command. The debate in the Human Defense Council chamber had been going on for 3 hours. General Paul Bennett sat at the head of the table, listening as his officers argued about Commander Xylith's proposal. The room was divided, and the division was getting deeper with every passing minute. Colonel Susan Grant stood up, her voice firm. This is exactly the opportunity we've been looking for. We need allies in the galactic community, and this gives us a way to build relationships while sharing something valuable. We become teachers instead of threats. We become partners instead of outsiders. Major Kevin Ross shook his head forcefully. This proposal turns us into mercenaries. We train soldiers for whoever pays us. And then what happens when those soldiers fight each other? We end up being responsible for conflicts we have no stake in. We should focus on our own territory, colonize the death worlds that others can't use, and stay out of galactic politics. We can't stay out of galactic politics, Susan shot back. We're already involved just by existing. The question isn't whether we participate, it's how we participate. Would you rather be feared and isolated or respected and connected? Lisa Crawford raised her hand for silence. Before we continue this argument, I think we need more information. We've sent a research team to investigate the feasibility of the proposal. Let's hear their report before we make any decisions. A holographic display activated, showing Lieutenant Commander Nicole Davis. She was broadcasting from the Valorian homeworld, where she had spent the past 3 weeks with a small team of human trainers. Secretary Crawford, members of the Council, I'm pleased to report that our initial tests have been extremely promising. Nicole's image was replaced by footage of Valorian soldiers attempting human-style exercises. They struggled with what humans considered basic movements, but they were completing tasks that their own training programs had never included. We've been working with elite Valorian military units. When we arrived, the strongest Valorian soldier could perform approximately 3 pull-ups in their home gravity, which is 0.6 standard. After 2 weeks of human training methods, that same soldier can now complete 7 pull-ups. She showed more footage. We've introduced them to cardiovascular training, progressive resistance exercises, and tactical thinking developed by humans. The improvements have been remarkable. More importantly, the Valorians are enthusiastic about the training. They see it as a way to become more capable without relying solely on technology. The display changed to show Dr. Patricia Scott, a sports medicine specialist who had accompanied Nicole. The medical data is fascinating. We're seeing measurable improvements in bone density, muscle mass, and cardiovascular efficiency. The Valorian physiology responds well to controlled stress and recovery, just like human physiology does. We've had 0 serious injuries because we've carefully adapted our methods to their capabilities. Patricia pulled up comparison charts. Here's what surprised us most. The physical improvements are impressive, but the mental improvements are even more significant. Human training methods emphasize problem-solving, adaptation, and perseverance. These traits are not naturally emphasized in Valorian culture, but they're learning them. They're becoming not just stronger, but more flexible in their thinking. Nicole reappeared on the display. We've received inquiries from 4 other species who want to participate in trial programs. The word is spreading faster than we anticipated. Species that were skeptical about humans are now requesting our help. This could be the foundation for building real relationships across the galaxy. When the broadcast ended, the council chamber was quiet. Kevin spoke first, his tone more thoughtful than before. I admit, that's more promising than I expected. But I still have concerns about scale. How many trainers would we need? How do we ensure quality control? How do we prevent our methods from being used against us? Those are valid questions, Paul agreed. Susan, you've been the strongest advocate for this proposal. What's your vision for how this would actually work? Susan activated her own presentation. I propose we create the Human Training Corps as an independent organization under council oversight. We start small, with maybe 5 facilities on different alien worlds. We recruit volunteer trainers from our military and civilian fitness sectors. We develop standardized programs that can be adapted to different species, and we make it clear that we train for self-improvement and defense, never for aggression. She showed mock-ups of potential facilities. Each facility would be run by a human commander, but would employ mixed staff of humans and locals. We'd establish strict protocols about what we teach and to whom, and we'd maintain oversight to ensure our training isn't misused. What about compensation? Lisa asked. This proposal gives us political influence, but what about concrete benefits? That's where diplomacy comes in, Susan replied. Each species that wants training would negotiate terms. Some might offer technology sharing, others might offer trade agreements. Some might simply offer political support in the Galactic Council. The specific benefits would vary, but the overall result would be stronger relationships with multiple species. Paul stood up and walked to the window. He could see Earth below, the beautiful, deadly world that had shaped humanity. I've spent my whole career preparing for war. I trained to fight enemies and protect our people. This proposal asks us to do something completely different. It asks us to be vulnerable, to share our methods, to trust others with knowledge that could potentially be used against us. He turned back to the council. But maybe that's exactly what we need to do. Maybe the greatest strength we can show is not our ability to fight, but our willingness to help others become stronger. Maybe the way we survive in this galaxy is not by being the toughest, but by making everyone else tougher too. The vote was close, but the proposal passed. Humanity would create the training corps and begin teaching other species. The decision would change everything. 3 weeks later, Nicole stood in what would become the first official training corps facility on the Valorian homeworld. The building was new, constructed specifically for this purpose. It had sections designed for different gravity levels, different atmospheric conditions, and different teaching methods. Valorian workers were still finishing some areas, but the main training spaces were ready. Her co-director was a Valorian named Celine, a military officer who had participated in the initial trials. Together, they reviewed the applications from the first group of students. 300 Valorians had applied for 50 available slots. Each applicant had written essays explaining why they wanted human training. Listen to this one, Celine said, reading from her datapad. He writes, I have always believed I was weak because I could not match the standards set by our technology. But watching humans, I learned that weakness is not permanent. It is simply untrained strength. I want to learn what I am capable of becoming. Nicole smiled. That's exactly the attitude we're looking for. People who understand that this is about personal growth, not about becoming super soldiers. The first day of training arrived. 50 Valorian students stood in the facility's main hall looking nervous and excited. Nicole and Celine stood before them, along with 3 other human trainers who had volunteered for the program. Welcome, Nicole said, her words translated into Valorian language. You have been selected from hundreds of applicants because you demonstrated the qualities we value: determination, willingness to learn, and desire for self-improvement. Over the next 12 weeks, we will push you beyond what you think you can do. You will be sore. You will be tired. You will want to quit. She paused, looking at each student. But if you push through those feelings, you will discover something amazing. You will discover that your limits are not where you thought they were. You will become stronger, faster, and tougher than you ever imagined possible. More importantly, you will learn that challenges are opportunities, not obstacles. The training began simply. The students learned proper form for basic exercises. They started with low weights and simple movements. The human trainers watched carefully, correcting technique and offering encouragement. It looked easy, but the students struggled. Their bodies were not accustomed to this kind of systematic stress. By the end of the first week, several students wanted to quit. Their muscles ached constantly. They felt exhausted. They wondered if they had made a terrible mistake. But the human trainers had expected this. They had learned through their own training how to push through the difficult early stages. "Your body is changing," one trainer explained to a struggling student. "It's breaking down old patterns and building new ones. The pain you feel is not damage, it's growth. Trust the process. Come back tomorrow and try again." The students who stayed began to see results. By week 4, they could perform exercises that had been impossible in week 1. By week 8, they were stronger than they had ever been. By week 12, they looked and moved like different people. On graduation day, Nicole watched as the 50 students demonstrated what they had learned. They performed exercises that would have amazed their fellow Valorians. But more importantly, they carried themselves differently. They stood taller. They moved with confidence. They had discovered inner strength they never knew existed. Celine stood beside Nicole. Captain Derek Hayes had never expected to return to Titan 7 under these circumstances. When he left 2 years ago, it had been a human training facility in the middle of nowhere. Now it was the most prestigious military training location in the galaxy. The frozen moon had been transformed into an advanced training center, where elite soldiers from dozens of species came to push their limits. Derek walked through the new facility, noting all the changes. The old simple barracks had been replaced by environmental pods customized for each species. The training grounds had expanded to include specialized areas for low-gravity species, aquatic species, and species that required specific atmospheric conditions. But the core of Titan 7 remained the same. It was still a harsh, unforgiving world that tested everyone who came here. His second-in-command met him at the entrance. Lieutenant Karen Wright had stayed on Titan 7 through all the changes, managing the transition from human facility to Galactic Training Center. "Welcome back, Captain. I hope you're ready. This new batch of students is interesting." Derek raised an eyebrow. "Interesting how?" Karen grinned. "Come see for yourself." In the main training hall, 25 aliens from 10 different species waited. But Derek's attention immediately focused on one figure in particular. A Zenthari officer stood at attention, his environmental suit modified to allow greater mobility than standard designs. Derek recognized the determination in the alien's stance. "This is Officer Kellix," Karen introduced. "He specifically requested to train here at Titan 7. He wants to complete the full human program, not a modified version." Derek studied Kellix carefully. The Zenthari species were among the most physically fragile in the galaxy. Their homeworld had low gravity and carefully controlled conditions. The fact that one of them wanted to train on Titan 7 was almost unbelievable. "Officer Kellix, do you understand what you're asking for? This facility will push you beyond anything your species has experienced." Kellix's translator carried his words with formal precision. "I understand completely, Captain Hayes. My people have always relied on technology to compensate for our physical limitations. But I have studied human training methods. I believe that even a Zenthari can become stronger if properly trained. I want to prove that determination matters more than biology." Derek felt respect growing for this alien who was willing to take such risks. "Very well, but you'll follow the same rules as everyone else. No special treatment, no giving up. If you start something, you finish it." "I would expect nothing less," Kellix replied. The training began the next morning. Derek had spent the evening designing a program that would challenge the alien students without killing them. It was a difficult balance. The whole point of Titan 7 was that it was harsh. But these students came from species that could die from conditions humans considered minor inconveniences. They started with basic physical conditioning inside the environmental pods where conditions could be controlled. Each species worked at their own level, but all of them worked hard. Derek walked among them, offering corrections and encouragement. He noticed that Kellix pushed himself harder than any of the others, refusing to rest even when his translator indicated he was approaching his physical limits. After 2 weeks, Derek made a decision. He called Kellix to his office. "You've been pushing yourself too hard. I'm concerned you're going to injure yourself permanently." Kellix stood straight despite obvious fatigue. With respect, Captain, I came here to push my limits. If I wanted easy training, I could have stayed on my homeworld. There's a difference between pushing limits and being reckless, Derek said. I've watched you train. You have incredible determination, but your body needs time to adapt. You can't build strength overnight. How long did it take you to become strong? Kellex asked. Derek thought about his own training, the years of work that had built his capabilities. Years, many years of consistent effort. Then I will train for years if necessary, Kellex said simply. Captain Hayes, my people believe that Zenthari are inherently weak. We have accepted this as fact for generations. But I have seen what humans accomplish through training. I have seen Valorians and Krathax become stronger than they thought possible. I believe Zenthari can do the same, but I must prove it first. I must become the example that shows my people we can be more than we are. Derek understood that kind of determination. It was the same drive that pushed humans to explore death worlds and survive in impossible conditions. All right, but we do this smart. We increase intensity gradually. We monitor your health constantly, and if my medical team says stop, we stop. Agreed? Agreed, Kellex said. Over the following months, Derek watched Kellex transform. The progress was slow, much slower than it would be for a human or even a Valorian, but it was real progress. Kellex's environmental suit readings showed increased muscle density, stronger cardiovascular function, and improved endurance. More importantly, the other students watched Kellex's dedication and pushed themselves harder. A Krathax soldier named Vorn approached Derek one evening. Captain, I must admit something. When I first arrived, I thought this training would be easy for me. Krathax are naturally stronger than most species, but watching that Zenthari work so hard while I complain about minor discomfort has shamed me. If he can push through his limitations, then I have no excuse. That was when Derek understood the real value of what they were building at Titan 7. It wasn't just about physical training. It was about showing that any being, regardless of species, could overcome challenges through determination and proper technique. The students were learning from each other, not just from their human instructors. 6 months into the program, disaster struck. A storm hit Titan 7, stronger than the forecasts had predicted. The facility's environmental controls strained to maintain safe conditions. Derek ordered all students to the emergency shelters, but Kellex was on a solo training run outside when the storm hit. Derek immediately organized a rescue team. Karen tried to stop him. Captain, the conditions outside are lethal even for humans. We need to wait for the storm to pass. Kellex is out there in a damaged environmental suit, Derek said, pulling on cold weather gear. If we wait, he dies. I'm going. 3 human trainers volunteered to join him. They pushed into the storm, fighting wind that threatened to knock them off their feet. The temperature had dropped to deadly levels. Visibility was almost zero, but they kept moving, following Kellex's emergency beacon. They found him collapsed in a ravine, his suit's power failing. Derek checked the readings and knew they had only minutes. We need to get him back now. Forn, you're the strongest. Can you carry him? The Krathax soldier nodded and carefully lifted Kellex. The return journey was nightmarish. The storm had intensified and now they were burdened with an injured alien. But Derek's team had trained for scenarios like this. They moved methodically, supporting each other, refusing to give up. When they finally reached the facility, the medical team rushed Kellex to intensive care. Derek and his rescue team collapsed in exhaustion, but they had succeeded. Kellex would survive. 2 days later, Kellex insisted on being released from medical care despite the doctor's protests. He found Derek in the training hall. Captain Hayes, you risked your life for me. Your team risked their lives. Why? Derek looked at the Zenthari officer. Because you're part of this unit now. We don't leave our people behind. That's what humans do. We look after each other. I understand now, Kellex said quietly. Human strength is not just physical. It is also loyalty and courage. These are the lessons that matter most. Word of the rescue spread throughout the galactic community. A human captain had risked his life to save a Zenthari, one of the physically weakest species in the galaxy. Other species saw this and understood that human training was about more than combat effectiveness. It was about building character and community. Applications to human training facilities increased dramatically. More importantly, the species that trained together began forming bonds. Zenthari and Krathax, who once had tense diplomatic relations, found common ground in shared struggle. Valorians and humans developed deep friendships based on mutual respect. On graduation day, Derek stood before the 25 students who had completed the Titan VII program. They looked different from when they arrived. Stronger, yes, but also more confident and more unified. Kellick stepped forward as the class representative. Captain Hayes, when we arrived here, we were individuals from different species. We had different abilities, different limitations, different expectations. But you taught us that these differences do not matter as much as we thought. You taught us that determination, perseverance, and loyalty are universal qualities. You taught us that we are all stronger together than we are alone. He gestured to his fellow graduates. We leave here not just as better soldiers, but as better beings. And we carry with us the human lesson that will change the galaxy. Anyone can grow stronger if they refuse to accept their current limits as permanent. After the ceremony, Karen found Derek looking out at the frozen landscape of Titan VII. You did it, she said. You turned a training facility into something that's changing galactic culture. Derek shook his head. We did it together, and it's not finished. This is just the beginning. Every student who graduates from here will influence their... 5 years had passed since Ambassador Threen first came to Earth with her warning. Now she sat in the Galactic Council chamber watching General Paul Bennett, prepared to address the assembled representatives. The chamber looked the same as it had during that first emergency session, but everything else had changed completely. Paul stood at the central podium, looking out at representatives from over 200 species. Some of these aliens had once called for military action against humanity. Now they wore uniforms that bore the insignia of the Human Training Corps. Some had graduated from human facilities. Others had human trainers working in their own militaries. The transformation had been remarkable. 5 years ago, I stood in a conference room on Earth and learned that my species terrified most of the galaxy, Paul began. We thought we were just doing normal training. You thought we were preparing for war. Both of us were wrong about what the other wanted, and we nearly let fear turn into conflict. He activated a holographic display showing the original footage of Titan VII that had caused such panic. This is what started everything. Human soldiers training on a death world. It looked aggressive and threatening. But today I want to show you what that training became. The hologram changed to show a montage of images from human training facilities across the galaxy. Aliens from dozens of species worked alongside human instructors. They struggled through exercises, supported each other, and celebrated achievements together. The footage showed not warriors preparing for battle, but beings working to become better versions of themselves. We now operate 43 training facilities on different worlds, Paul continued. We have trained over 15,000 beings from 87 different species. But the number that matters most to me is this. Graduates of our programs have helped prevent 3 major conflicts through peacekeeping operations. They learned to work together despite their differences, and they carried that cooperation back to their own governments. A Xanthari representative stood. Paul recognized him as Kellick, the officer who had trained at Titan VII. He had become a senior military advisor to the Xanthari government. General Bennett, on behalf of the Xanthari Empire, I want to express our gratitude. The training programs have changed my entire species' view of what we can accomplish. We are no longer defined by our physical limitations but by our determination to grow. Several other representatives voiced similar sentiments. The Valorian delegation spoke about how human training methods had improved their military effectiveness. The Krathax delegation thanked humans for teaching them that true strength came from cooperation, not just combat power. Species after species stood to express appreciation for what humanity had brought to the galaxy. But Paul knew the situation wasn't perfect. He had come here today to address both the successes and the challenges. I want to be honest with this council. Not everything has gone smoothly. Last month, a rogue faction attempted to kidnap human trainers to force them to create super soldiers. My people had to conduct a military rescue operation. The mood in the chamber shifted. This was the first time many representatives had heard about the incident. Paul continued, We succeeded in rescuing our people without casualties, but the incident revealed a problem. Some groups still see human training as a way to gain military advantage over their rivals. That was never our intention, and we will not allow it to happen. He looked directly at the section where the aggressive factions sat. The Human Training Corps trains beings for self-defense, personal improvement, and peacekeeping. We do not and will not train soldiers whose purpose is conquest or oppression. Any faction that attempts to misuse our training methods will be cut off from all human assistance. Commander Xylith stood from the Krathak section. He had been promoted to a council leadership position, partly due to his early support of human integration. General Bennett's words carry weight. The council has already approved new protocols to ensure training is used appropriately. But I want to add something else. The real benefit of human training is not military. It is cultural. He gestured to the assembled representatives. Look around this chamber. 5 years ago, many of us barely spoke to each other. Now we have friendships forged through shared struggle at human facilities. We understand each other better because we trained together. This council is more unified than it has been in centuries, and humans deserve credit for that. Paul felt a moment of pride but kept his expression neutral. Thank you, Commander Xylith. That brings me to my next point. Humanity has also benefited enormously from galactic cooperation. You have shared technology that has improved our lives. You have given us access to knowledge that accelerated our development by decades. You have welcomed us into the galactic community despite your initial fears. He activated another display, this one showing human colonies on various worlds. We have established settlements on 23 death worlds that no other species wanted. We are terraforming planets that were considered worthless. We are mapping dangerous regions of space that others could not safely explore. We have found our niche in the galaxy, and it complements rather than threatens the strengths of other species. Major Karen Wright, now a lieutenant colonel, sat in the audience watching Paul's speech. She had been invited to the council session as one of the original architects of the training program. Beside her sat Officer Kellix, her friend and former student. They had developed a deep friendship during his time at Titan 7, and they now work together on galactic peacekeeping initiatives. Your general speaks well, Kellix whispered to her, but I notice he does not mention the most important development. Karen smiled, knowing what he meant. You mean the joint exploration teams? Exactly, Kellix said. That is the future. Paul was just getting to that topic. Council members, I want to propose the next phase of human galactic cooperation. We have proven that different species can train together successfully. Now I suggest we take the next step. Joint exploration teams. He displayed a map of the galaxy with several regions marked in red. These are areas considered too dangerous for normal exploration. High radiation, extreme gravity, hostile environments, unknown threats. Most species cannot safely investigate these regions, but humans can survive there. And aliens can provide knowledge and technology that humans lack. Together, we could explore places that neither of us could safely reach alone. The proposal generated immediate discussion. Some representatives were enthusiastic, seeing the potential for discovering new resources and knowledge. Others were cautious, worried about the risks. Paul let them debate for several minutes before calling for attention again. I understand your concerns, he said. This would be dangerous work. But consider what we have already accomplished by working together. 5 years ago you feared us. Now we are partners. Imagine what we could achieve if we continue pushing boundaries together. Ambassador Threen stood and the chamber fell silent. She was one of the most respected voices in the council. General Bennett, I was the one who came to Earth with warnings 5 years ago. I was terrified of what humanity might become. Today I want to publicly apologize for that fear. You have proven that your strength is not a threat but a gift. You have made the galaxy safer and more united. I support your proposal completely. Her endorsement carried enormous weight. Other representatives began voicing support. The debate shifted from whether to approve the proposal to how to implement it. Paul felt relief wash over him. They had come so far from those early days of suspicion and fear. After the session ended, Paul met with several key representatives to discuss details. Dr. Helen Burke joined him, now serving as Earth's chief ambassador for xenobiological affairs. She had spent years studying the long-term effects of human-alien cooperation and had important insights to share. General, there's something you should know, Helen said when they were in private. We've been monitoring the biological changes in species that have gone through intensive human training. We're seeing measurable evolutionary pressures. They're becoming hardier, more adaptable, more resilient. It's happening faster than normal evolution because the training creates strong selection pressure. Paul frowned. Is that a problem? Some conservative factions think so, Helen admitted. They worry that humans are changing other species. But most scientists view it as beneficial. The aliens are adapting to become better suited for a galaxy that includes humans. It's natural selection at work. She pulled up data showing the changes. Look at this. Second-generation offspring of training program graduates show increased bone density and muscle efficiency. Third-generation offspring show even more pronounced changes. Within a few generations, some species may be significantly different from their ancestors. Are we playing God? Paul asked quietly. No, Helen said firmly. We're offering a choice. No one is forced to participate in training programs. Those who choose to participate are making a decision to push their limits. The biological changes are just a side effect of that choice. And honestly, General, humans are being changed too. We're learning patience, diplomacy, and cultural sensitivity. We're evolving mentally and socially, even if not physically. That evening, Paul stood on an observation deck looking at the planet below. It was the Valorian homeworld,